Question is the motion be agreed to, and I call the Minister.
Mr Deputy Speaker, it is a great privilege for all of the members of this House to be able to participate in this debate on behalf of all of our electorates around the country, and to ensure that for all time the commemorations that took place on that day form part of our nation's permanent record, not just in this place on Hansard but also through the Australian War Memorial. And I thank the War Memorial Board and Dr Nelson for his participation in allowing such a fitting remembrance to be able to be there for future generations. Let the kings pass and the shallow pomp retreat, for this is the day of men greater than kings. For them the drums of time shall ever beat, and at their tomb death stands with fallen wings. Though in the eyes of grief may brim the tears, above grief stands a pride tears cannot drown. These are the words of Dame Mary Gilmore, my great aunt. And on the day of the 100th centenary, of the commemoration of ANZAC, I had the opportunity to read those words at the community commemorative service held at Cronulla Beach's Natural Amphitheatre. Our shy community turned out on that day, Mr Deputy Speaker, at dawn remembrance services in unprecedented numbers, as they did all around the country. At Caringbah, at Sutherland, at Miranda and Cronulla. Caringbah RSL sub-branch started their service in March at 4:30, as they always do. The sub-branch reported double its usual crowd. Caringbah High School captain, Stephanie Sambujo, gave a moving address, and the service was accompanied with a pipe band. Thousands of people attended a wreath-laying service at the Eaton Street Memorial in Sutherland. And at the Miranda Memorial, their crowds were double that of previous years, and it's estimated some 10,000 Shire families and residents attended on that day. 11-year-old Charlotte Guest of Yowie Bay Public School spoke with confidence, wisdom and understanding well beyond her years. She said, "By honouring them does not mean we are glorifying war. Anzac Day is not the day for political grandstanding or to present those who object to war with the occasion to protest." Sir General Consgrove stated, "The soldier, above all other people, prays for peace, for he must suffer and bear the deepest wounds and scars of war." The Miranda RSL sub-branch have expressed to me their gratitude to the community for coming in droves to remember the serving and the fallen, and to the Sutherland Shire Council for their assistance they gave in providing an enhanced sound system to meet the needs of the greatly increased crowd. Cronulla RSL sub-branch recognised the need for a much larger venue, and they moved from the usual location where the memorial is posited and settled on the majestic setting of Cronulla Beach that morning, where the sun would rise symbolically on the waters of Bait Bay. And having attended the cenotaph early that morning on behalf of the Prime Minister, it was a great privilege to return to my own community and join all of those down at Cronulla Beach with my own family as we watched the dawn rise and as we commemorated. The Cronulla RSL sub-branch and Sutherland Shire Council were recipients of the Federal Government's Centenary of ANZAC grants to support what was an extraordinary attendance down there at Cronulla Beach. A temporary cenotaph was erected with a 3-metre high white cross adorned with a large crocheted red poppy and was secured by 250 sandbags representative of the World War I trenches. A large stage and screen had been installed for the expected crowds, and thousands of people calmly and quietly walked down to the beach, standing shoulder to shoulder to remember and to honour those who served. The choir from Our Lady of Mercy College, Burraneer, performed hymns of the Recessional and Abide With Me. A current serving officer, Phil English, of the Royal Australian Regiment, delivered the keynote address. And on hand were 69 volunteers from the Cronulla Rotary Club to cook breakfast and lunch to feed the estimated 20,000 who attended there that morning. Families came with blankets and chairs and picnics and set up for the morning to wait for the cross to the Gallipoli dawn service later that day. And following the dawn service, the Sutherland Shire Council organised a full program of events, including a screening of a short film called Jack and Tom, made by students at the Miranda Public School and Port Hacking High School, which captured the hearts of all those who saw it, and you can look it up on YouTube. The film, with its use of the term over the top, gave an account of 2 young boys growing up together in our idyllic Sutherland Shire, then going off to war. In closing, Tom, played by Bruce Grimley, who was president of the Miranda RSL sub-branch, remembers his fallen mate Jack at the Miranda Memorial. The film provided the perfect segue to the community commemorative service at 11 a.m. Auntie Deanna Schreiber from Currannulla Aboriginal Corporation welcomed us to country and spoke of the service of many Aboriginal people who all served our nation in the Great War. The Kurnell Public School Choir, led by Adrienne Brown, performed our national anthem in the local school, and elected representatives, members of our emergency services and other invited guests planted a homemade poppy in a field of remembrance in front of the cenotaph down there in Cronulla Beach Park. Hundreds of commemorative poppies were knitted, crocheted and felted by people across the Sutherland Shire and indeed across Australia. The 431 men and women who served in World War I from the Sutherland Shire and are were honoured with an individual poppy and name plaque detailing their service. Their names are described on our 14 local memorials and honour boards. Sadly, 64 never returned, and they rest now in foreign soil. Their histories are recorded in a book, Service and Sacrifice, funded by the Centenary of ANZAC grants and published by the Botany Bay Family History, which I table for the House. It has been written by Marilyn Hanley and Suzanne Hewitt, who spent 5 years researching the stories of these men and women whose names appear on our honour boards. We're very pleased to have that now as a permanent record of all those who served. Those names now have a story behind them which our young people and generations into the future, and I commend Suzanne and Marilyn on an outstanding piece of work. I was very proud of the mateship trekkers. The member for Blaxland and I have engaged in the mateship trek for many years now, and the Cook mateship trekkers, Georgia Sargent, Joel Eaton, Hayden Sawyer, Shay O'Dowd, Matthew Reid, Mitchell Palmer, Kimberly Short and Timothy Boland and Aaron Lovell, all read each in the first-person accounts of those Sutherland Shire shoulders and their service. Kane Hughes read the account of Private Benjamin Cook, who took part in the Battle of Surrey Bear and the Battle of the Hill 60. And Private Cook was an original member of the Cronulla RSL sub-branch. Emma Cullen told the story of Private Joseph Hayes, who was also part of the assault on Hill 60, and his great-granddaughter was present at the service, and she, with Emma, planted a poppy in his honour. 100 years ago, families all across Australia were receiving the terrible news that their loved ones had been killed in action. But in 2009, our community received the terrible news that Sergeant Brett Till had become our 10th soldier killed in Afghanistan. Sergeant Brett Till, a highly respected explosive ordnance disposal technician from the Incident Response Regiment in Holsworthy, was killed by an explosion that occurred during a route clearance task in southern Afghanistan on Thursday, 19 March 2009. A brave and courageous 13-year-old Talia Till, his daughter, delivered a poignant and heartbreaking account of her father's service and his ultimate sacrifice. Talia was joined on stage by Bree, Brett's widow, her older brother Jacob and her younger brother Ziggy, who was yet unborn when Brett was killed. And together they honoured their father in a deeply moving tribute, reminding us all of the sacrifice of ANZACs from 100 years ago, even to this present time. The service concluded with the recital of the Ode to the Fallen by the 3 local RSL presidents, who I wish to thank: Warren Thomas, Shirley Smith and Bruce Grimley. Afterwards there were performances and a great community coming together, and I thank in particular the Sutherland Shire Council and Mayor Kent Johns, as well as John Rayner, the CEO, Catherine Lord, Lynn Hoyle and others for their work in bringing together this very special day, and Meredith Daverty and my own team, Louise Domenico, and others in my office for supporting this very special day in our nation's history, but very much our Shire's history. I wanted to conclude, Mr Deputy Speaker, by reading a poem that was written by one of the young people in our community just before the commemoration. I attended the Cronulla South Public School, and Cody Shute had written a poem, and it was a beautiful poem, and it deserves to be read here in this place. A Year 6 student, he said in his poem and wrote, "Gallipoli early morning, cold, frightened and far away from home, boats heading towards beaches, crashing in surf and foam, running with bullets screaming past my head, mates not so lucky, falling beside me dead. We fight for our families to be free. We are the ANZACs and we will never flee. Young and old fight side by side, back home our countries are full of pride. 100 years have passed, and with a poppy and a stem, when the sun goes down, we will remember them, lest we forget." My great-aunt Dame Mary Gilmore would be very proud of Cody Shute. He captured our feeling as poignantly as she did over her long life as a great lady of Australian letters.